Richard Nottingham headed down Briggate in firm, concentrated strides. Just before Leeds Bridge he turned onto Swinegate, walking past the King's Mill with its wheels still loudly and busily grinding corn into flour, then along a row of cramped, dilapidated cottages and artisan dwellings that looked on the verge of toppling over. A cobbler had his goods displayed in the wide front window of a house, the sound of his hammer against the last echoing across the street as he worked. Heat escaped like a thick sheet from the blacksmith's forge, while next door a stable reeked of horse dung as an ostler's boy shovelled the steaming mess onto a larger pile against the wall. Servants shopped late for their mistresses, talking and laughing loudly as they passed, enjoying the brief respite from the grind of their chores. Another frontage was piled with chandler's goods, coiled ropes, canvas duck, and all manner of items for the barges that plied the river air. Outside the door, two women, both haggard and old before their time, chatted earnestly as their children played in the dirt, close to the puddles and mud where people had slopped the contents of the chamber pots into the street that morning. Somewhere in an upstairs room a baby was yelling, its cries going unheeded. Without stopping to knock or announce himself, Nottingham slipped through a small door into a house that reeked foully of sweat and excrement. Thin light came through a dirty window, showing a pair of boys, neither of them more than 5, their faces ground almost black, playing on the filthy floor. A woman of indeterminate age sat on a chair in the corner, her eyes closed, oblivious to the world, an empty cup of gin on the table beside her. He followed the passage through to the kitchen, a tumble-down affair that had been added to the house sometime in the past 100 years and never cleaned since the day it was built. The man he was seeking would be there, enjoying the sun through the window and the heat of the cooking fire. Amos Worthy was leaning against a wall, eyeing a girl who stood in the center of the room. She kept glancing up at him nervously, her face blushing red from his gaze, scarcely a day over 13. Seeing her, Nottingham thought of his daughter Emily, safe and sheltered at home. This lass had probably just arrived from one of the villages, hungry and in need of the only work she could find in the city. Worthy was a procurer, one who ran many of the prostitutes in Leeds. By rights he should have been before the assizes many times over, convicted and hanged or transported to America. But several of the city's aldermen used his whores. He provided them with girls, and in return they kept him safe from the law. His finger was firm on the pulse of the city's crime. Worthy turned his head, saw the constable, and casually instructed the girl to come back later that evening, watching as she scuttled away. Although he had to be well into his 60s, Worthy still cut a powerful figure. He was an inch or two taller than Nottingham, with a stiff, straight back and a barrel chest. His nose had been broken and badly reset so often that it curved awkwardly and unevenly across his face. 2 of the constable's men had once worked for Worthy, and told with awe how the man always relished a fight, first into the conflict with fists and boots flailing, and last to leave, his cheeks flushed with blood and battle-lust. His vicious reputation went beyond men. Worthy was also ruthless with his girls. If one didn't do as she was told, he beat her bloody with his own hands. A repeat offence brought cuts from the razor he kept in his waistcoat pocket. If there was ever a third instance, the girl simply disappeared. "Mr. Nottingham," he said lazily, "a pleasure to see you here." There was no trepidation in his eyes, merely a mocking smile. Worthy was a rich man, even if he spent little of his wealth on his clothes or his surroundings, and even less on his girls. Yet no matter how full his coffers, or however many favours the people who ran Leeds owed him, his profession and low birth made him socially unacceptable. However important he was, the order of things kept him at arm's length, but within easy reach. "I'm sure you heard about the murders last night," Nottingham began bluntly. "Always unfortunate when people are killed," Worthy agreed, calmly picking at a tooth with his thumbnail. "Especially when one of them's a guest in our city. But it's nowt to do with me, constable." He grinned, holding up a tiny piece of food for inspection before wiping it on his greasy coat. "You deal in girls," Nottingham pointed out. "She was a prostitute." Worthy shrugged carelessly. "Another girl. You know there's no shortage of 'em." He fixed the constable with a pointed gaze. "If she'd been one of mine, you'd have heard about it by now." He made it sound like a threat. "Did you know her?" "Of her? He chose his words carefully. She came to me last year, but I turned her away. She was too old for the taste of my customers. They prefer someone younger. Like the girl who was just here, Nottingham said, keeping his tone deliberately even. Exactly, Constable. Worthy smiled sharply, showing jagged teeth. Pretty little thing, isn't she? Still got her youth, and maybe even her maidenhead too. She'll be good for 3 or 4 years yet, as long as she does what I tell her. The constable let Worthy's bait dangle between them for a few heartbeats. Then he calmly asked, "Can you tell me anything about the girl who was killed?" The procurer considered the question before answering. "I used to see her at the ship sometimes. I don't think anyone ran her. I'd have heard if they did. But for the little she'd earn, it would be a waste of time. I couldn't even tell you her name." "Pamela." The constable supplied the name firmly. Worthy nodded as if he'd learned an interesting new fact. "One way or another, they all die." He paused before adding, "You should know that all too well, Mr. Nottingham." The constable stared hard at Worthy, wondering at the meaning beneath the words. He desperately wanted to smash the smugness from Worthy's face, but knew better than to do it. He breathed in and out slowly and said, "I'd be interested in knowing if she had any friends or any regular customers. Anyone who knew her." "You know me.